Welcome everyone. My name is Harish Subramanian. I'm delighted to welcome you all this evening. We're very excited. We're launching the postgraduate certificate in software engineering for data science, a program that was birthed and initiated by IIIT Hyderabad, and we as Great Learning have have been fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with IIIT Hyderabad on this program. I am going to briefly introduce our speakers today. We have a very exciting lineup. But before that, let me just quickly give you the structure of this session. Right, this hour-long session is going to be broken into three parts. In the first part, we're going to learn a little bit about IIIT Hyderabad, its reason for initiating this program, its prowess in research, academia, as well as industry. And also what role Great Learning plays in this entire program. Phase 2, I'm going to give you a brief overview about the program itself, the mechanics, how it's going to work, and all of the important details you need to know. And then phase 3, we're going to leave plenty of time for your questions. So as you have questions, please feel free to ask them, and we'll do our best to collate all of them and get them all answered for you. So without further ado, let me introduce our guests today. So from IIIT Hyderabad, let me start with Professor P.J. Narayanan. Professor Narayanan is a professor and director since 2013 at IIIT Hyderabad. Professor Narayanan has earned his PhD and master's from the University of Maryland, College Park, earned a BTech from IIT Kharagpur, and is one of the leading researchers in computer vision, computer graphics, parallel computing on GPU, and associated areas. He's worked with organizations, some of the world's best organizations like Microsoft Research, Center for AI and Robotics at DRDO, the Robotics Institute at Carnegie Mellon University, and many others. Professor Narayanan is the co-chair of, is the chair of ACM India Research Board, has been a co-chair at ACM India Council, and was the first president of ACM India. For those of you who are not aware of it, ACM, the Association of Computers and Machinery, I think, is one of the most important organizations in computing globally, as far as research is concerned, as far as collaboration is concerned. So we're very privileged to have Professor Narayanan here. Welcome. We also have Professor Ramesh Loganathan, a professor of practice, and Professor Ramesh has a very interesting background because he brings over 20 years in the software industry, working across technology, product R&D, innovation, and brings a wealth of that experience. And brought that to IIIT Hyderabad as a professor in co-innovation, and he also heads research and innovation outreach at IIIT Hyderabad. He also helped start and grow the Technology Transfer Office, the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and many other organizations within IIIT Hyderabad. And he's held many academic positions, so he brings a perfect balance between industry experience and academic expertise. Professor Raghu Reddy is an associate professor and heads the Software Engineering Research Center. He's also formerly been an assistant professor at Rochester Institute of Technology, where he was instrumental in building the software engineering master's program there. Professor Raghu has earned his PhD from the Colorado State University, and his research focuses on the design and construction of complex software systems. So welcome all of the professors. And finally, let me introduce Mohan Lakhamraju, CEO and founder at Great Learning, and also the vice chairman at Great Lakes Institute of Management. Mohan was recently awarded the EdTech CEO of the Year by EdTech magazine. And he's been in education for a really long time. First as an investor, he was a managing director at Tiger Global, and then in building educational institutions in India and abroad. He's also been a technology practitioner. He was a co-founder of a Silicon Valley-based tech company called Stratify in his previous career. Mohan earned his MBA from the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and MS from the University of California at Berkeley, and a BTech from IIT Bombay. Welcome, Mohan.
Thank you.
And finally, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Harish Subramanian, as I said at the outset. I am a director at Great Learning, lead a lot of our academic initiatives and new programs. I've had a fairly long career in education myself, now at Great Learning and previously in building tertiary educational institutions across Africa. I've also had a career as a management consultant with the Boston Consulting Group. I earned my MBA from the Kellogg School of Management and an MS in computer science and applied math from the University of Texas at Austin. Welcome, everyone. Excited to be here, excited to kick off this program. So let me first start with Professor Ramesh. So Professor Ramesh, if I can invite you, please, to just introduce IIIT Hyderabad and the initiation of this program, right? So how did this program get started? And yeah, and if you can talk a little bit about, what role, how we're perfectly placed between academia and industry, that will be wonderful as well.
Sure, Harish. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to see the kickoff, the program's kickoff happening today. We've been working on it for several months now between IIIT and Great Lakes. So happy to see it finally taking off. And so this is something, I mean, I'm sure Dr. P. Janarayanan will talk a little bit more about the institute itself in a little bit. Let me just talk about the outreach. So as a research institution, one of our primary objectives, of course, research and academics is like any institution would have it. That's the core of our institute anyway. But one of our founding objectives was to kind of, as much as possible, take up research that matters. Now, the matters part is outside the institute. The research is, of course, the knowledge efforts that happen within the institute. But the matters is outside the institute, and that connect is very, very key. And so for many years, we've been trying to do a lot around connecting our institution, especially our research, with the outside world. So we've had like many initiatives, like for instance, like our the postgraduate student status program. It's a very unique program. Anybody in the industry here, I mean, we were in some part and form started by industry along with the state government, with the institution started back in '98. And industry has been there's been a very tight relationship with industry from the beginning. So this program, where anybody from the industry without any formal registration can come and take any course. They just come, sit in the same classes, do the same assignments, do the same lab, same projects, and along with our regular full-time undergrad and postgrad students. And the idea was that like you can do this just for knowledge, you don't have to do it for a degree. If at all they convert it into a degree program, all the credits count. But they're signing up just to take such courses without being part of any formal program. And our incubator, we started in 2008, one of the earliest incubator in the city, and today the largest incubator in the city, and probably largest university incubator in the country as well. And that again was, the part of the thinking was to see if that can be a way to take the knowledge out, take the research out through startups, and whether faculty start the startups or students or even somebody from outside coming, working with our research. And while not enough of our own researchers, our research students making startups, creating startups has happened, but we've had like around 350, 400 startups in the last 12 and a half years of the incubator's existence. And our incubator is the reason we have THUB, which is another incubator on our campus started by the government. And that's probably the largest incubator in the country already. And they're going to move to a much larger facility early next year, which is going to be about 500,000 square feet. And we help create it, we help structure it along with the government. So that's on the startup side. Now, since not enough of research-based startups are happening, we started another initiative a few years back. Again, this has been thinking that's been in the institute for 7-8 years now, to kind of attach engineering to research. Because to create a market product, research is a very key starting point, but that is not enough. You take the research and then kind of wrap it into a product and build all aspects that go into the whole software engineering, robustness, reliability, usability, all those come into play, and also building it for a specific use case. Research can be a little bit more generic, but we build a product as we for specific use case. That's the other thing that we've been thinking of for many years, and finally we started a product seeding lab. It's called Product Labs. an engineering group that creates products. So that's something we started 3 years back, and that's doing well. We already have the first few startups that have come out. 3 of them have revenue already. And very interesting, all of them coming centrally from research. It's not just some fringe use of research. It is centrally based on research. That is the genesis of the product labs. And so when we started Executive Education, unlike almost any other institute, when we started the Executive Education initiative in end of 17, the thinking was, yes, there's an industry connect, there's a knowledge sharing, our research knowledge and other knowledge that we can share with the industry and help their own professional journeys. But there was a subtext in that whole initiative, which was like to get the working professionals connected to the institute, connected to research. And the hope is that like a small percentage of them, 5%, maybe if we are lucky, 10% of them would continue engaging with the institute and hopefully join some of our formal research programs. And that connect is very weak in the Indian academic research environment. Most researchers come fresh off of the system. They do their grad, undergrad, PhD and postdoc and get in. So very little from industry happens. Industry to academic shift is not very common in the Indian industry environment. So we're hoping that this will kind of have a rub-off effect. So we look at this as a key enabler. And the reason today we have, our director, Professor P. Janaran here, Raghu, who heads our software engineering center, Raghu here, is because like, apart from the program itself, which has its own benefits, there is this, like I said, a subtext expectation of trying to connect with the working professionals and then just tap into, some of them do have research interests, and tap into that interest and see how they can engage with the institute even beyond this program. So those are some of the aspects. So we're happy. Our first 2 programs have taken off well. And this topic is such, I think there's extremely wide interest. It's a convergence of software engineering and data sciences, which I think is a very, very happening segment now. A lot of the use cases, even AI-led data sciences, I think is now finding its way very, very rapidly into industry solutions. It's coming out of research labs into industry very rapidly. A lot of mainstream solutions are coming up. And we do believe that as mainstream solutions come up, the software engineering practices around data sciences become very important. So I think it's a very, very timely course. So I'm very, very happy. And Great Learning and us have been friends for many years, but we've been trying to find a program that we could do together. And so I'm very happy to see that happening as well. So look forward to more, much more. And this program doing well, and also other programs coming up in the near future. So thank you so much. Thanks, Mohan, Sachin, Harish, and others for all the fantastic support. I think it's a great partnership, and all the best to all the participants that might join the program. Thank you. Back to you, Harish.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh. If I may, just a quick question. You have a ton of experience in the industry yourself, right? And now on behalf of IIIT Hyderabad, work closely with industry, and you talked about some of the initiatives that you run there. What have you seen in the industry as being the need of the hour that informs how you think about programs and the design of programs at
Thank you, Professor.
So I think, so what I see as an industry, if you look at the tech industry, the industry is predominantly services centered and like kind of like back-end centered. Now, what we miss is front-end and frontline thinking. The strategy thinking happens, if you're a services company, it happens in your client's principal locations, wherever they are. If you're a technology company with India labs, even there, a lot of the strategy thinking happens elsewhere. Only good quality engineering work happens here, but all of the strategy thinking of products, product definition, all that happens elsewhere. Now, I think that is the opportunity we have as an industry. Now, for which like we have to leapfrog. This is not something that will happen very organically. If you want to leapfrog, you have to look at emerging technologies and look at it very, very closely and very deeply. I believe it's an opportunity. Very few of the tech companies in India work with research. And even where they engage with research, it's a very, very small part of their operations that kind of engages with research. In many cases, it's not even for their IP needs. Mm-hmm. They do it more out of kind of partly socially driven and partly just as an ecosystem driven. I think we need to get to a point where companies engage with research for their IP needs. That's where tangible solutions happen. This connect is very, very important. I see very little of it happen, but I know both the worlds very well. In Hyderabad, I'm very connected to almost all the academic institutions here. In the industry, I know well. very, very little of it happens. And I think the opportunity is huge. We just need to make more of it happen. And our hope is like any connect we have with industry in some form is a likely trigger for such. We've seen it from our earlier programs. We were participants, because the program has participants, like the nature of continuing education and executive education is such that you'll have people with a couple of years experience, you have people with 20, 25 years experience. And the late career, mid-career professionals are often in senior positions, decision-making positions. When they come and then interact, they get ideas. It has happened actually. So I hope the same thing happens here. The need is definitely there. This is not the only way to do it, or this is not the best way to do it even. There are many other ways to do it for the industry to engage with research. But this is one of the ways we're hoping it will trigger. Where there was no idea, we're hoping that this will trigger the idea. But we definitely need to have much more engagement between research and industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Professor Ramesh.
Thank you, Harish.
If I can invite Professor Narayanan. Welcome, Professor Narayanan.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you for introducing me earlier. It's great to have to launch this program in software engineering for data sciences, along with great learning. Talking to great learning for 3 or 4 years and trying to arrive at something that we could do together. I'm glad this has worked out due to great interest from great learning, as well as my colleagues Raghu and his team in the Software Engineering Center, as well as Ramesh. So IIIT Hyderabad is a research-focused institution. We think of ourselves as a research university where research and its impact or impact on whatever we do, the impact on research of our actions is at the center of all thinking. People, of course, the wider world knows us as a education institution where a lot of BTech students and MTech students are produced. This is how the universities are known. Even MIT is with its glorious past. Most people think of it as the undergraduate teaching is what connects everybody with MIT, and that holds true for IIIT also. But the slight difference is, from very beginning, we decided to have a research-focused or research-led program even for the undergraduates. So we have a very different undergraduate program compared to any institution, the IITs, all our peer institutions. Our students are encouraged and definitely given the opportunity to take part in the research done by some of us in the research centers. They can actually join a professor to start working with them or with a team of professors at the end of their second year, and work for last 2 years of their undergraduate life here, working on some project or a series of projects, maybe in a team, maybe by themselves. And this necessitates the coursework, even in the first 2 years, to be slightly different. So we have a very different structure of courses, and this has been very well appreciated by everybody. We just completed our 2020 COVID year admissions, and half of the undergraduate students have already started classes 2 months ago, and they really appreciate the kind of approach we have to academics. We don't think of this as a training institute, but as an institution that prepares people for the bigger challenges. That's what represented by research. In terms of research, our research areas, all of technology, that is the information technology areas, including computing, communications, circuits, VLSI, robotics, computer vision or speech, software engineering, theory, all of them are represented reasonably well in our institution. But what sets us apart is even though we have the name IT in our institution, in our name, we don't think of ourselves only as a technology institution. Technology, that is information technology especially, has become an enabling technology now, and it gains from coming into contact with other domains, and the domains also gains with the application of information technology. So we have several interdisciplinary centers, programs within the institution. These range from in several civil engineering areas, such as computer-aided structural engineering or intelligent buildings. There are computational natural sciences and bioinformatics, both research and teaching program. There is spatial informatics, there is computational linguistics, and so on. And most of these are, we start everything with those kind of programs with a research focus, a master's program, PhD program, etc. And when the strength grows and we see a position, we start not an undergraduate program. Our primary undergraduate program today is in computer science and EC, hardware, software, the broader technology area only. But we have many interdisciplinary, or what we like to call transdisciplinary programs, where the BTech is in computer science. They get a master's in one of, the the computational linguistics or computational natural sciences. Or 2 years ago, we started computational human sciences. This is humanities and social sciences, because that's an area that really needs a lot of computing. In one side, today, the explosion of social media and other things, there are a lot of data out there about the society, about humans. How do you understand it? We need advanced tools of we need things beyond the spreadsheet. We need the advanced tools of AI to understand this, or whatever data processing. But equally importantly, the computer science or the software system that we are designing today require insights from the sociologies and the society, experts in society and humanities, so that we design better system rather than design system with an engineer's mind. We need to build system that is built for the society. So there's the transdisciplinary programs. Otherwise, our individual research centers, whether it is computer vision, robotics, or natural language processing, they do their own, like any academic group will work on. They work on theoretical problems, applied problems, and get funding from all kinds of sources, work with PhD students, master students, and in our case, also the undergraduate students. And they do well on their own. But recently, we also been placing more focus on applied research. How does this research apply or make an impact in the society? So this required very different kind of thinking, and this more importantly required very different kind of people. And we are realizing that how to set it up. We are still learning that process. We have we recently launched a applied AI research center along with Intel and Government of Telangana and PHFI, the Public Health Foundation of India. This would focus on two areas: transportation, which we have been working for the last 3 years, and healthcare. A very, very exciting set of work is starting there. We call this research center IIIT. It's IIIT for integrating AI. And we have also we also have a technology incubation, a technology innovation hub awarded by DST as part of their 25 hubs set up in the country. Our hub is specifically focused on data-driven technologies, and there's a lot of overlap with the applied AI work there. But we also expect to be a foundation for or a repository of all kinds of data for the country, be a one place resource. That is one aspect. Now, as an education institution, we believe education institutions are like water fountains. Different people, different entity components of the society should learn or benefit from it in different ways. So research, our students benefit from something, research community benefit, but also industry. Industry is a very important component. Ramesh already talked about the PGSSP program, but which enables any professional to just come, walk into the campus, take 1 or 2 courses at a time with no serious process of admissions and so on. This has been going very successfully for the last 15 years. Roughly 100 individuals come every year, every semester to take some courses. We also have educational engagement for schools. We have been working with, the summer programs we ran for like school kids. We also trying to work with the Navodaya system and others to see how to teach AI or how to teach some more computational thinking for the schools. And the executive education program is been a very important component. Last 3 years ago, we launched it big way in AI and ML. Now we are doing the third one, which is AI ML first and then blockchain. Now we're doing the third one in the software engineering, which is a very relevant topic. India is known for its software engineering prowess, but I see this program designed for software engineering for data sciences, because the big hype going forward is data sciences, and people need to know how to marry these together. So we have excellent set of faculty members in that center. I'm sure they have designed a very good program, and I particularly welcome all the prospective participants in this program, the professionals in the country, anywhere. Today, the online world makes it possible for us to serve it to anybody. You will be learning the most cutting-edge things from the best people, and I'm sure Great Lakes with its or Great Learning with its with its experience will also provide the other experiences that is required so that the whole thing is smooth. So I'm very excited to be part of this launch, and I'm looking forward to the impact this has on the larger software industry or professionals across the country. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mohan, and thanks, Harish, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Narayanan, and we share your excitement. Excellent. So now, if I can invite Professor Raghu, who heads the Software Engineering Research Center, if you can briefly introduce, a little bit of the work that you do, and also, Professor Narayanan just alluded to this, but we talk about how yes, data science is the future, but software engineering is the bedrock on which all of this is built. So if you can, briefly explain what that means and how that's informed the design of our program.
Thank you, Harish. Welcome, and thanks everybody, whoever has logged on to listen to this session. My name is Raghu, as Harish just pointed out, and I work in the Software Engineering Research Center here in IIIT. I've been here for about 9 years now, and previously I was a faculty in Rochester Institute of Technology, and in fact, RIT was actually the very first school across the world, actually, to introduce software engineering at an undergraduate level. No other school or university had done it in the world. So it was, in a way, a very huge advantage for me to be a part of that school and then be one of the major factors or persons behind to start the master's program when we did. So it gave a huge advantage in terms of how to differentiate and what is fundamentally engineering versus science, and how does science and engineering interplay with each other, right? So which kind of leads us nicely into this whole discussion that we've been having, data engineering for software engineering, or software engineering for data engineering. So there's a nice interplay between these two. I'll come to that part. So in terms of my own research, I've been primarily working with model-driven engineering for the last many years. And later on, once we moved to India, it's obviously diversified, with more students, you have more possibilities of doing different areas within software engineering. So at present, there's a lot of work that we do with empirically related, in terms of empirical software engineering. Even from a user interface perspective, usability engineering is something that we do quite a lot of, especially in AR, VR. We do a lot with respect to knowledge engineering. So these are just some of the areas I work on. Of course, my colleagues, there are people who work in programming languages, the computer systems group with respect to cloud computing, distributed systems. So broadly, it's a very diverse group. And when we say software engineering, we are only the drivers of this. Obviously, there's many more people who are going to be involved from different research areas based on the particular set of topics that we're going to deal with throughout this program as such. So that's from a research perspective. In terms of what exactly this program is about and why, I mean, that's the question, right? Ultimately, why this program? As Professor Pijan and Ramesh were saying, right, over the years, if you really look at it, although data scientist per se, the term itself was coined probably only about a little over a decade ago, or maybe a little more than that. It's been there for about 50 years now, and software engineering probably even more, right? Now, when you come to think about it, over the years, even from an industry perspective and a research perspective, there's quite a lot of work that goes on in terms of using data engineering, right? So when I say using data engineering, I'm talking about deep learning techniques. I'm talking about NLP, IR, for example, classification, neural networks, etc. So usage of techniques to solve traditional problems. Right? When I say traditional problems, more likely than not, traditional problems tend to be software engineering problems, right? If you look at it from a software engineering perspective, it could be either from a process perspective or from a product perspective. And more likely than not, a lot of it from a product perspective. So how do you actually get better results? Ultimately, that's the goal. So how do you get better results, or in a way, how do you produce better quality software? Which translates to actually at a low level, how do you write better quality code? So your better quality code is in a way going to reflect in better quality of software also, if you just look at it from a product perspective. Of course, from a process perspective, there are various practices that can be embedded into it. So if you keep that process perspective aside, right, there's tremendous scope for adaptation of just the software engineering practices, because there's a lot of people who argue future is all about data centric software development. I mean, that's the word I want to use, right? Not traditional software development anymore. It's going to be highly data centric. So in that sense, when you want to look at it as a data centric software development, we need to understand the importance of actually being able to look at something which is data centric. How do you know the correctness of something that you're writing? I mean, obviously your models can be there, they're mathematically shown to be correct, and then they'll give some input and then you get some output. But are these results, what is it? What you're expecting? How can you explain the results that you're getting, right? So for example, explainability in that sense, this is a big problem. Even if you look at it from an AI perspective, from a software engineering perspective, you should be able to explain the process of getting from A to B. So it shouldn't be a big black box that we're looking at, right? This is where software engineering comes in. The quality aspects, whether it is explainability, whether it is scalability, whether it is correctness that you're looking at, or whether it is modularity. Even if you look at it at a very low level, I mean, a lot of times what happens, so when it becomes data centric development, okay, fundamentally I say, oh, I'm a data scientist, I know Python, right? That's the first thing that comes out. I know Python, I can become a data scientist because I know how to use its libraries. Well, is it just that? That's the question that we are trying to pose. Is data scientists, or data science rather, only about Python and its libraries? Take a simple case of memory, right? When we start using Python libraries like pandas, etc., it's not ideal. So what do you do? How do you engineer so that your system or your piece of software is more efficient? This is where the underlying, as Harish said, the bedrock, right? The engineering layer comes in. What are the processes, or how do you write good quality code that helps you to do better data analysis? So a lot of what we are fundamentally going to do in this particular curriculum is to introduce those fundamentals, of software engineering, which is going to help a potential data scientist to merge these practices and help write better quality code. So that is something that I just wanted to point out. Maybe if there are questions, I'll probably take questions later on, but hopefully that kind of at least helps to lay some sort of an idea as to why we wanted to do this program.
Fantastic. Thank you, Professor Raghu. We've heard a lot about IIIT Hyderabad and the initiation of this program, as well as what role software engineering plays as the world starts scrambling towards data science projects. Let me take a moment, and if I can invite Mohan to briefly talk about Great Learning and the role Great Learning plays in this program. So please take it away, Mohan.
Thank you, Harish, and thanks to all the professors from IIIT Hyderabad. It is definitely a pleasure and a privilege for me to be participating in the launch of this program. I'm originally from Hyderabad, and I remember, the time when IIIT Hyderabad was first set up, and so it is a matter of pride for Hyderabad. And so, from a very early time, we've been keen to work with IIIT Hyderabad, and so working on this program is definitely something that we are very excited about. And we know that the unique name that IIIT Hyderabad has created for itself, and I hear it from my friends in the industry about the kind of talent that gets produced there, and how it is a cut above what they typically get from many other engineering and technology institutions. Right? So we are looking to bring that flavor also to working professionals. If I step back a little bit, at Great Learning, our mission is to enable career success for working professionals, young and mid-career professionals and senior professionals through high quality educational experiences, transformational educational experiences. That's the mission that we've been pursuing relentlessly for the past 7.5 years. We have collaborated with the best institutions in India and in the world. And best institutions are what they are because of the faculty that they have, right? So we have tried to tap into that, the high quality faculty that are there and have their impact get extended to as many people as possible. And that's the role that we play, right? So these faculty have limited amount of time. So we augment and extend their impact by engineering, the support requirements of the learners, making sure that, learners are well supported and, have access to the practical flavor that the industry needs. So we are very well connected with the industry as well. So our programs are all very experiential. So we will make sure that whatever it is that is being learned from the professors, you are able to apply it and solve practical problems. And then you get feedback on those problems, and therefore you get practice on how to solve these so that you can immediately apply them in your professional career and you can get ahead in the professional career. So that's really, the value we bring to the table. So we have delivered over 50 million hours of learning so far. And so over 6 lakh students have learned and are learning on Great Learning platform, with over 30,000 of them going through our postgraduate programs, and from 85 countries around the world, right? So this is something that is, we've now built experience at doing this at a fairly large scale, and our programs, the industry relevant programs are there across all the areas that are in high demand in the industry today, whether it is AI, ML, cloud, business analytics and data science, cybersecurity, business management and design thinking, digital marketing, software development. So all of those areas. And so, and if I may, one of the key aspects of our programs are that they are not like your traditional academic programs. Most of what we do is interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, much more mapping the requirements of the industry, right? And that, in these PG programs, we have that flexibility and the ability to create something that exactly what the industry wants. And that's what we've done in this instance. And in IIIT Hyderabad, we have a academic institutional partner that recognizes that need very well. Like everything that you've heard in so far, that, one of their key imperatives is, to do research that matters. So they are very keen to have the research go towards solving practical problems. That is something that they are keen to do. So that's very exciting for us because that aligns perfectly well with the mission that we are trying to solve. So we are looking forward to collaborating with IIIT Hyderabad to make this program the best program in the country and one of the best in the world of its nature. This is a very, very emerging, kind of cutting edge program. So there aren't too many like this. But then most of what we have done is like that because, we are among the earliest to launch programs to meet the requirements of the industry. There's a very good chance that, most of the systems built over the next few years are going to be data-centric software engineering systems, right? And so what you're going to learn in this program is going to be needed across the board in a very wide spectrum of applications. So for everybody who wants to be a credible software engineer and wants to pursue a path of a growth path in software engineering, this becomes something very important for you to learn. And we'll make sure that you have a very, very, good learning experience. And we will make sure that you have the support that you need to get the learning outcomes for yourself. And then we'll, of course, support you with your career outcomes as well, being engaged with a lot of companies. And so we'll make sure that, there are good opportunities for all of you all to access and you're well prepared for those and so forth. So we're very excited about this program and look forward to launching it and to having the sessions commence very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan. With this, thank you to all the professors and thank you to Mohan. I think we've set it up nicely. We've talked about the values of IIIT Hyderabad and what IIIT Hyderabad as well as Great Learning bring to the table. So let's talk a little bit about the program now. Right? But before I get into the nitty-gritty of the program itself, let me talk about why we've created this program. Right? I'll build on what Professor Raghu said. Using the data-centric software development approach. But let's pause and just take a look at why this program exists. So what does a typical data science project look like? Right? Phase one of any data science project typically involves data engineering. Right? So there's a lot of data that's available. All of us know just the abundance of data that's being produced, but it's not always in the form that a data scientist or a modeler likes. Right? It's not neatly put in the right format with the right tables and so on and so forth. Data is messy. And data engineers have to think about, how do I deal with different databases? How do I deal with different data sources? How do I bring all of that together so that a data scientist can then work on all of this information? Step two is model building and analysis. Right? This is where traditionally data scientists and data analysts play a strong role. And if you go out and look at most data science programs, most of them will focus on this step, right? The modeling, the analysis. Once we have, it's assumed that data is already there. It's all sitting neatly and safely in a nice container. And now we're going to analyze this data and draw insights from it. But what next? Right? There are other steps to this process. Once you're confident about the model that you have built, you then have to deploy this model. You then have to put it into production. And that's a messy affair too, because that goes hand in hand with infrastructure, with maintaining the system, with you have to start thinking about, okay, I'm going to have to potentially change this software in the future. How does this integrate into all the other software I already have as I'm thinking about integrating it into my product? Because none of these models exist in isolation. They exist for a purpose, right? You're building a product, you're integrating into an existing system. As Professor Raghu said earlier, you have to think about modularity of code, because guess what? 2 years down the road, somebody has to go and change all of this, right? So fundamentally, if you look at this entire process, most data science programs, most data science courses focus on step two. And what we are focusing on here is getting you familiar with steps 1, 3, and 4, so that you can support every single data science project in the world, whether it's something you're building in-house, whether it's something you're integrating from elsewhere. These foundational principles of being a good software engineer, but being data-centric in your software development and engineering, is really what this program is about. And that's what makes this program so unique. And this is not just empty talk, right? We're seeing an incredibly high demand for this kind of skilled talent. And many people have said this, but this particular snippet we got from Jesse Anderson, a managing director at Big Data Institute, is probably the one that says it most succinctly. Any data organization needs a bunch of data engineers. And what this fails to say is a bunch of machine learning engineers, other software engineers to deploy these programs for every one data scientist in their team. So everybody talks about data scientist as being the cool role. But guess what? There's an army supporting this role. And these are not just bit part players either, right? Because what we're seeing is that machine learning engineers, data engineers, according to LinkedIn, are among the most sought after emerging jobs, right? Now, the data science world itself is starting to become more mature. So we're starting to see more job titles emerge. So there's no longer just a data scientist. There's a machine learning engineer, there's a computer vision engineer, there's a data warehouse architect, there's an algorithm engineer, there's a data engineer, and and there are software engineers, and every software engineer, architect, and CTO now has to think about integrating data programs and data projects into their larger ecosystem. And all of these roles are incredibly valuable. All of these roles, I would argue, are equally in demand. And that's, as a technologist, that is a very valuable, unique position that you can be in. And that's why we've created this program specifically, this data-centric program, but still focused on the software engineering piece. That's a massive gap. That there is an incredible opportunity here. It's clear that there are a lot of jobs out there. There are a lot of people who are clamoring for this kind of talent. but it just doesn't exist, at least not in the numbers that we want. And this kind of skills you will learn in this program, the kinds of skills that you have to develop, as depends on what your starting point is. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to come with data centric a background, people who might have worked on traditional databases and so on. Your sweet spot might be as a data engineer, where you start to focus on your software skills and build your ability to build good data pipelines. Right? You might be somebody who then learns how to deploy these models and become a machine learning engineer. So there's not just one skill set. It's not about modeling. It's not about just knowing statistics and building machine learning models. The takeaway here is that as a software professional, as a technology professional working in this data environment, there are many different paths. There are many different skills you need to build. And we in this program are going to endeavor to build as many of these skills as possible from the perspective of software engineering, so that you are ready for this data-centric world. Right? And so what are these kinds of skills we're talking about? As I said, it's engineering all of the data pipelines. It's deployment of these models. It's thinking about distributed systems, because guess what? Like I said, it's, the world is messy. You're going to potentially work in a distributed environment. You might work with, with infrastructure clusters. You might work on the cloud. You'll have to think of DevOps from a new perspective. You have to architect your entire system newly. You'll have to work with APIs extensively. So as you think about all of your systems, these are the skills you're going to build over the course of this program. And these are the skills you're going to build from the perspective of a data science world. Right? So who is this program for? In a nutshell, this program will help you develop the software engineering skills you need to build real world at scale data science applications, right? Those are not just qualifiers, those are important. I want to emphasize the real world and at scale data science applications, because that's where software engineering plays a part. So if you are a technology professional who wants to be a part of data science teams, engineering teams, you can develop a very unique skill set at the intersection of these two areas. If you're a manager or a leader who's trying to build teams around you, this is a fantastic way for you to understand holistically how these two areas interplay. And if you're a relatively early career professional, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to, while everybody's clamoring to be a data scientist, for you to become a really robust software professional, be a data engineer and a machine learning engineer, and develop skills in those areas. And for all of you who are interested in these, in approaching the world from this particular perspective, we are going to help you practice and learn how to build scalable software systems in service of data science projects, in service of AI projects. So what does the program look like? In a nutshell, it's an 8-month program. It involves over 350 hours of learning. So this is not a light program. You do have to dedicate a reasonable amount of your time every week. We know a lot of you, most of you are going to be working professionals. So, you should plan to have 8 or more hours a week set aside for this particular program. But it's an exciting program, and I think it's absolutely worth it. What's really exciting about this program is that you will have 3 on-campus residencies where you will have these classes at IIIT Hyderabad, learning from some of the brightest minds, some of whom you just heard, and there are many others who are going to be part of this program. And at the end of this program, you earn a postgraduate certificate from IIIT Hyderabad and alumni status. So what are the learning paths available? So there are 2 ways you can approach this program. And I know all of you, who are, I'm fairly confident that some of you are early in your career. Some of you are probably wondering if this is the right program for you, because maybe you don't have the requisite experience. Maybe you haven't yet reached a point where you feel like you have mastery over a lot of the foundational skills required. For you, we recommend the standard learning path. Right? So you will have pre-work that kind of, if you're scratchy, if you don't really have a whole lot of the foundational skills, it gets you up to speed. Then you work through 4 months of software development fundamentals. right? You'll work through a lot of the foundational elements required before you jump into the core software engineering for data science area. And if you have the prior experience, if you are already a seasoned technology professional, if you feel like you work with code day in and day out and you don't need to revisit the software development fundamentals, then I recommend the accelerated learning path. Now, of course, you can't just claim to, to know all of this. We will put you to a test. You will go through a proficiency test to convince yourselves and us, right, that you're ready for the accelerated learning path. But for those of you with a lot of experience, with prior programming experience, who feel like you have strong software development fundamentals, you take that test and you can get started directly with the software engineering for data science component. And that's the accelerated learning path. And that cuts your program down to just over 4 months. So what are we talking about as far as the program and the curriculum and all of these are concerned? Right? If I'll walk you through the standard program process. And obviously, if you're accelerated, I'll give you a quick gist of what that means. You start with, as I said, pre-work, which sets up your fundamentals for programming. You walk through over the span of 4 months. You will learn a lot. You will build a lot of your software development fundamentals, right? So Professor Raghu said, Python is not the be all and end all of data science, but it is important. So we will start with programming in Python. You'll learn, you'll revisit a lot of the data structures and algorithms concepts that are relevant. You'll learn about databases, SQL and NoSQL databases, some of the web development frameworks to deploy a lot of these models in real world. In short, if you don't have a whole lot of experience under your belt with the entire software engineering process, the software development process rather, we're going to get you up to speed. Now, there are obviously limitations on how much you can cover, right? Just part A here could be an entire degree in itself. But as Professor Raghu said, we are going to focus on this being data-centric software development fundamentals. Right? So even within the software development fundamentals part A, you are going to focus on data-centric problems. A lot of your assignments, your projects are going to be preparing you for part B, which is software engineering for data science. And for those of you who have completed the pre-work and part A, and for people who have passed, who have taken the proficiency test and who have passed and who moved straight in through the accelerated path to part B, that's where your paths merge. And part B is the core, the focus, where you're going to learn on software engineering for data science, where you'll walk through a lot of the most important concepts you need to know as a functional practitioner in software engineering. So you learn about the architecture principles, how you work with data, so data engineering, as I said, distributed systems, software engineering. These days, a lot of it happens on the cloud because you don't have bare metal infrastructure. But also, when you think about deploying systems on the cloud, you have to think about it natively on the cloud. And then how do you scale these systems, right? So data science at scale, how do you do that? And of course, none of it works if it's not secure. The more data we have, the more systems we integrate with, the more we have to think about security. So that's an integral course as well that will conclude the program. So at the end of the program, you will earn a postgraduate certificate from IIIT Hyderabad. As I said, alumni status of IIIT Hyderabad's Outreach Division. And you have career support through Great Learning's Accelerate program. So what is career support through Great Learning Accelerate? Mohan alluded to this a little bit earlier, but Great Learning has a network of companies that we work very, very closely with. So we work with over 400 companies in India and some abroad as well. A number of them work with us across the entire experience spectrum. So they work with us, to hire entry-level professionals, mid-level professionals, experienced senior hires. And for all of these areas, we have career fairs. We help with building your e-portfolio, which is a series of the series of projects that you work with over the course of this program will be reflected in an e-portfolio that you can share with prospective employers as well as your current employer if you so choose. You'll have personal career coaches. There's a Great Learning job board where we curate a lot of the important or the pertinent jobs and we share them with you. It's not just a mass of just aggregating a bunch of jobs from everywhere. We are very thoughtful about the kinds of jobs that get posted there. So in a nutshell, it's a very important platform that's going to help match the companies that have this need, and you as individuals who've gone through this this program, who've built the requisite skill sets. So I'm sure you're asking yourself how you can apply to this program. It's very simple. You go online, fill our application form, and you have to specify which path you wish to be evaluated for. If, like I said, if you don't have the requisite background very early in your career or don't have a whole lot of software development experience, please choose part A. You'll still go through a screening process from the admissions director's office. And once we've evaluated suitability, you can join the standard path of the program. If you've opted for the accelerated learning path, you'll have to clear a software development fundamentals proficiency test. So this effectively tests, and like I said, it's not just a test for us, it's as much a test for yourself. We found through a lot of our programs that you might have experience in these areas, but it's always useful to brush up, especially if you haven't had a lot of hands-on experience recently. So it's an important test, but it's also an important precondition for us to directly accept you into the accelerated path. And regardless of which path you take, once you have been evaluated and selected, we'll provide you an offer of admission into the program, and you'll confirm your participation, pay the fee, and join the program. The program fees are at the bottom of the slide. For the standard path, it's the 8-month program with both the online part A as well as in-campus residencies. You're going to, so the tuition fees is 2.25 lakhs plus GST. For the accelerated learning path, if you've tested out of part A, it's 1.75 lakhs plus GST. And if you take part A and for whatever reason you have to abort your learning process, if you have to suspend it at the end of just part A, so just part A, is 75,000 plus GST. Now, obviously, even if you suspend your learning at that point, you can pick it up. We expect that you will typically only do that at the end of part A if you have a compelling reason. Maybe you've been sent abroad. Maybe you have something at work that prevents you from continuing on to part B, in which case you have, as long as you can re-enroll into part B within a 2-year period, you can just pick it up from where you left off. All right, I'm going to pause here. I've gone through all of the program specifics, the details. I'm sure a number of you have questions. So I'm going to take this opportunity to answer a lot of your questions. If I can't answer your questions, I'll direct it to all of our experts here. All right, so a couple of questions. When does the course start? The program is going to start in January of 2021. So if you want to, the admissions are open right now. So if you want to get started, please get started right away and book your spot. A lot of the information is up here. The URL at the bottom, greatlearning.in /IIT Hyderabad is going to take you to the program page. You can get started with your application right away. If you have questions, our phone number is up here. Reach out by phone, email, and we'll get started there. There's a question about what does online and on-campus residencies mean? Can one do this program without visiting the campus? The short answer is the on-campus residencies are an integral part of the program. If you want to go through this, so part A is entirely online. As I said, the software development fundamentals, entirely online. There are no requirements to visit the campus. Part B, the on-campus residencies are an important part of the program. This is where a bulk of the learning happens. In the course of travel and all of that other stuff, we'll make a judgment call along with IIIT Hyderabad on when it's suitable, when we can run these on-campus residencies. As of now, given the strange world we live in, I think we should be fine to run these on campus next year. But if it doesn't permit, then we might run these programs online. But that's a judgment call we'll make closer to the date. Now, I don't want to talk about the on-campus residency as much as a requirement, as I think it's actually a very, very valuable facet of this program. Right? This is when you're going to, not many of us get the opportunity to go interact with some of the brightest minds in the world, on a regular basis. So for those of you who are questioning it, I think this is super valuable, and I strongly suggest you take this opportunity. Mohan, do you want to elaborate on anything around the learning model?
Yeah, so I think, between Professors Ramesh, Professor Raghu, and us, we have tried to optimize this learning experience to have a good blend of on-campus and online, right? So that's why there are 3 residencies, of which 2 of them are compulsory. So, 2 residencies, folks have to visit the campus. Of course, the visit is assuming that the COVID situation has been resolved. If it is not resolved by then of course they'll be done online as well, right? But assuming that it is resolved, then we would want these to happen on campus. That is where all the interaction will happen. There'll be a lot of engagement between the peers. There'll be group work, all of those kinds of things that will happen, and those are all super important. So and 2 weekends that will happen. I think that is something that people can spare, for a very high quality learning experience, which is why we have tried to optimize it for that. The rest of the months, it's all going to be online, but a minimum of 2, the first and the third on-campus residency, are compulsory, right? And we think that it strikes a good balance between online and offline. And I'd like Ramesh to add to this as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mohan. I was just going to ask. So we, when we started this whole executive education, the idea of doing it a few years back, and we said we wanted to do it only where we can actually bring in some value from our research and from our faculty, meaning emerging technology areas, and where there's still a lot of work happening in research that is relevant to what the industry is trying to do. So while yes, it's going to do the capacity building, capability and skills and such, but we wanted to bring in where there is relevance of research still, so which is essentially emerging technology areas. Now, such areas, a lot of it, while yes, we can do a lot online, but there is good amount of it that is best done in a room. And so we said, like, if our faculty is not teaching at least a good part of it in a room, even if some of it happens online, we shouldn't be doing it. There are many others that do it very well, and some of the very, very good institutions across the world are doing it. So pure online is something that we were not too keen. We wanted live online and at least some part of it a direct in-room contact. We have seen that brings a very different perspective. So that is something that we said we should do. To make it practical, we decided to do it like packed into a few weekends instead of doing it every week or every other week. So even those from out of town can come. But we believe, like Mohan said, there are different layers to it. It's not just what is kind of taught or said in those lectures. There's a lot more to it. Just after the session, walking up to the professor and chatting up itself is an experience. And like Mohan said, walking around the campus, meeting some of the research students, visiting the labs, it's all very different things. And we want all our participants to experience that. And we believe it's a very important part of the program. There's one more reason we make sure that is there in all of our programs. And though it makes it very slow for us, we can't add programs as fast as we would like, because this puts restrictions in terms of our faculty time and such. But we're okay with the slow number of programs getting added, but we want to make sure the depth is there.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh and Mohan. I'll just emphasize a point that was said in passing there, but I think is actually very, very important. When we say online, a significant portion of the program is actually taught live online by the faculty, right? It's not while there is always a place for recorded content and recorded material, which allows you to digest a lot of information over at your own pace. You do have interactive sessions. You have a lot of live online sessions in addition to the on-campus residency. So it is, as Professor Ramesh said, a very valuable feature of this program, and it makes it very unique. There's another question here around how can somebody with, who's a product manager or a product designer, and there was a separate question about how can someone who's a software architect benefit from this course. So Professor Raghu, do you want to elaborate on this? These are not core software engineers, not developers, but product manager on the one side and a software architect. What value can they get from a program such as this?
That's a tricky question, because fundamentally, I mean, one is, I'm hoping as an architect, they are really well versed from a technical perspective, right? And as a product manager, they may not. So that's where I think we started with, in terms of trying to differentiate the part A and part B, if you remember, right? We wanted somebody who's not, at least skills wise, at a certain level to start off with part A and then move into part B. So hopefully, to a large extent, I would suggest that, go through the entire sequence if you're not probably well versed with programming fundamentals. And that too, that is a, good bit, because a lot of what will happen is, it's not just going to be lectures, right? Because we're not just going to deal with lectures. We're going to have assignments, we're going to have activities which you will probably have to do as part of the course itself. And unless you do that, it's not going to really help if you just come sit there and listen to what we are saying. So to a large extent, we would say the courses might end up being quite a bit hands-on, rather than just being lecture based. Because otherwise, if it's just lecture based, it's just like I'm pulling off content off the web somewhere, and then you could as well read it. So there's going to be not much of a difference for us to be involved in that sense. So my answer would be rather, I'm hoping that part A brings everybody to a certain level playing field, and then we go from there. Some probably maybe a little bit more, some probably a little bit less, but I mean, that's a certain amount of give and take that we have to go with, I guess. I mean, I don't see anything which will satisfy everybody.
Yeah.
So just to add up on that little bit less part that Raghu referred to, a small number we've had in the other programs that we have, we've had a small number of very senior leaders, like say development heads or like India heads and such, that wanted to just get the knowledge. So they said, look, we're okay, we don't want any hands-on. So a small number of such, I think, might be okay on the little bit less side that Raghu referred to. But bulk of the learning happens only when you do. So even product managers, I would think, like, even though their job may not involve too much of programming, but I think appreciating that is important even in their jobs. So even if they may not be doing it normally, it's I think highly desirable that they do it during this program, so that like when at the end of the day, product managers and product companies are making decisions on what can be built, what cannot be built. So when developers come and tell them, look, this will need 6 months, I think it's helpful. The person knows that it's not going to take 6 months. This should take only 2-3 months.
That's fun. I mean, that's exactly, true, Ramesh. In fact, I had a friend who was a product manager, and one of his team members had registered for the AI/ML program. So he came back and told me, now I know, what to expect from my team member. So if he says X number of months, I exactly know whether it is X number of months or not.
So product managers and architects, I would think there's very little excuse not to do the hands-on. Senior leaders I can understand, but not product managers and architects.
Yeah, from our experience, the other programs that we've done, we actually have a lot of senior managers who come and take it for the same reason, right?
Such people, it's okay because they're not going to be, they want to understand a new technology is probably okay. But it's better all the others do it, yeah.
They also want to, pardon my language, but they also want to call people out on their bullshit, right? If their team comes and tells them something, they want to know that, this is like, is it a day job, a month job, or a year job, right? So
yes, at least the order they should know.
Yeah. There are actually a number of different questions but I'll summarize this around career support. And Mohan, if you can just elaborate on that, and I can add to that as well. But questions around, what are career services? What is the career support that you talked about? So can you just give us the gist of career support?
Yeah. So there are a few elements to this, right? So one is basically the, helping you prepare right? So, this is whether it is, resume preparation, interview preparation. When you are looking at presenting yourself for certain opportunities, you also need to present yourself well, right? So some of you may have last done that when you were in college, right? So, so we have support for you to help you organize your, your CV and understand what it is to make transitions, if you are transitioning roles and so forth. So we have support around that. We have the ability for you to get one-on-one mentorship, right? So you have access to Great Learning Accelerate, where one of the abilities you have is to ask for a one-on-one mentorship with, a certain kind of mentor, and we will facilitate that. The system actually automatically facilitates that. So you can then, get personalized career guidance. Not everything, your situation will be unique. So you can talk to people that are in roles that you're looking for and understand, how you can actually, make progress. Then the other aspect is access to opportunities. So, now for younger people who are more flexible, who are more mobile, of course, there'll be more opportunities. For experienced people, who have location constraints, who have, various role constraints, the opportunities are, relatively going to be lesser, but that, that's always the case anywhere. But, we have a very vibrant job board where we keep sharing opportunities, and you'll have access to all of those as well. So broadly, and then of course, pre-COVID, now we used to conduct regular career fairs. Now during COVID, we can't do that. We've been doing certain things virtually, but in normal times when we are able to do that, we also do these career fairs across all the metros in the country, where you can participate, and depending on the companies that are coming in and depending on the roles being offered, you can participate in those as well. So all of the career activities that Great Learning does, you will have access to, and you can customize your career journey. So the idea being that we are not only helping you with the learning, but we'll also support you towards converting your learning outcomes into career outcomes.
Okay, thank you, Mohan. I think you said it all there. There are a couple of questions, and so there's one question asking, that saying they're not very well versed with programming. Can they take this program? There's another question where they talk about minimal coding experience, and a third question that talks about programming experience having been well in the past, and they haven't done it recently because they've moved into managerial positions. The short answer is this is why we have a part A and a part B. So please take the standard paths, take the time to build up your skills. Whether it's something that you have not done extensively or whether it's something you've done well in the past, take part A. It'll give you a good sense of whether or not you're ready for part B, right? It is at the end of the day a technology program. It's not, it's not high level discussion. It's not just conceptual knowledge. As I said, we're preparing people to actually work on this, to be practitioners, right? To be able to roll up their sleeves and work on this hands-on. So it's not to be taken lightly. But having said that, part A is designed for people who either were not fully ready yet, or people who are a little rusty. So take the part A, take the time to go through that. It's not very long in itself. It's only 4 months. And once you're done with that, and you've gone through all of the mechanics, built the right muscles, you'll be ready for part B.
Yeah. So I think the only exception to this, and these are basically people who are, senior people and people who are in leadership positions, who are not, going to be doing a lot of hands-on. So such situations, just please write to us, and, we will discuss those with, Professor Ramesh and others, and, we'll come back to you. So those are going to be exceptions rather than the norm. So, so I think the best thing they can do is to write to us.
Yeah, and on that note, there's also a question about somebody who's working, living and working abroad, somebody who's working on a project abroad. Write to us, right? I don't think we can expound on all the edge cases right here, but write to us, reach out to us, call us, and we'll counsel you on a case-to-case basis, right? We do have people. My rough back of the envelope guess will be somewhere between 5 and 10% of our learners over the course of their programs do travel abroad for jobs, do things, go back and forth. A lot of that happens. We're used to it. But each of you is going to be unique and distinct in your needs. So write to us and we'll take care of, and we'll advise you on whether or not you'll be able to make it work. All right, I think that's it as far as the questions are concerned. If there are no other questions, I'll wrap up here. If there are questions that that come up even after this conversation, please feel free. All our information is up here: our phone number, the email ID, and the URL up here. Go explore the program, and if you still have questions, write to us, email us, and we'll get those answered. For now, I really want to thank Professor Narayanan, Professor Raghu, Professor Ramesh for taking the time to launch this. As you said earlier, we are as excited as you are to get going with this. There are a lot of people working furiously behind the scenes, putting all of this together, and we're excited to get going. Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you, Mohan.
Bye.
Thank you, Harish.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.